Ragin Cajuns quarterback Walker Howard back into the transfer portal. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. College football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. One more game to go. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. All right, ULM gets a quarterback transfer, so that's another quarterback into the Sun Belt. And we got tonight, Troy is hosting Southern Miss. So something that is probably not that big of a surprise is Cajuns quarterback Walker Howard, the hometown kid, back into the transfer portal. All right, on January 5th, Lunch Winfield decided he was coming back, and I don't think anybody's surprised that Walker Howard is taking off. We, at that point in time, hadn't seen anything, and the usual suspects reporting it, Matt Zinitz and everybody else reporting that Walker Howard is going into the transfer portal. It is an unfortunate situation. It did not work out for Walker Howard. And for 2026, it didn't really work out for the Cajuns, for that fact of the matter, although maybe they have Lunch Winfield, could prove to be, that starting quarterback that they've been looking for to maybe start for a couple of years. All right. Walker came in with big fanfare, highly recruited. Father went to LSU, Jamie Howard. Ended up at Ole Miss after some guy named Jaden Daniels came in to play quarterback for LSU. And when Jackson Dart, actually, I guess Jackson left, went into the draft. Then Walker Howard left and came to play, but ended up sitting behind Jackson Dart instead of Jaden Daniels. Then comes in, and we're not sure. When I say we, I mean me, myself, and I. Not sure how he's going to be. We're hoping it would kind of be a Joe Burrow effect, be a little rusty, and be okay for 2026, and then gangbuster, or in 2025, and then go like gangbusters in 2026. Although, that level is the Burrow level is pretty tough to reach. But he was shaky from the start, and that didn't get very far from that. Right? Did not play very well in his first game against Rice. And then, unfortunately, after his best play of the game, which was an out to about the 30-yard line, to try and set them up for the winning score, and all they needed was a field goal. They lost 14-12. And Walker Howard was 10 out of 22 with an interception and 88 yards. The defense played pretty well, considering the offense did nothing. And let me see what that last play was, because I think it was about 30 yards, 25 yards. All right. First, they had to go almost the length of the field from their own 5-yard line. First play, 25-yard pass, 1st and 10 at the Cajuns 5. He hits Sheldon Sampson for a 25-yard pass to the Cajuns 30. Okay. Well, there's, a minute 51 to go, and you only have to get to about the 30-yard line. So you got 40 more yards to go. Not impossible to do. And you can get further if, the drive is more successful. Unfortunately, he hurt his, pulled an abdomen muscle or something along those lines, something in his core. Now, the story is that he had hurt it earlier in the game, but didn't tell anybody about it. And then he tore it, and he had to have surgery. And so took him a little bit to come back. Then Mike Desimo kind of used him kind of haphazardly, just kind of threw him into the mix with no rhyme or reason. And he kept on throwing interceptions. It was very strange how he was being used, kind of to no one's benefit, to be honest with you. Although in the end, he ended up, let's see if I can get his game logs, because there's just not that many game logs, right? Against Southern Miss, he started against Rice, came out at the end. Against Southern Miss, which would have been 6 weeks later, or maybe 7 weeks later, started August 30th, then played against Southern Miss 10 out of 18, 2 of 6, 23 yards, 1 interception. Played against Troy, 0 for 1, 1 interception. Played against South Alabama, but it was 0 for 1. Did come in and save the day against ULM. Lunch got hurt in that ball game, and although not explosive, 6 out of 9 for 44 yards, did run it for 26 yards, and that hold on. So no, he ran a 20-yard play in overtime. He ran it actually 5 times for 33 yards. I'm still befuddled, and I still don't have an answer. Not that it matters, but the Cajuns kept on going for it at the end of the ball game against ULM, and it didn't make any sense to me. They had already stopped ULM because they didn't have a place kicker. So ULM, went for it on 4th down and didn't get it, and the Cajuns get the ball back. They only need a field goal. First play, in fact, they threw an interception in overtime. Sorry. First play is a 20-yard run down to the ULM 5. Why are they not kicking? Now, they handed it off to Bill Davis. He didn't get in, handed it off to Howard, tried to take it himself, and then Lunch tried to take it himself. And then they kicked a field goal. I didn't understand. Did we not know the overtime rules? I'm trying to figure that one out. Nonetheless, Walker saved the day and ends up being a hero for the Cajuns to continue their bowl streak, 8 in a row. That's impressive. They did lose to Delaware. He did play a little bit in that ball game. But it just didn't work out for Walker this year. Wishing him all the best from everybody. From what everybody says, he's a great kid. I don't know him personally. I think I missed out on covering him at STM. Certainly covered a bunch of guys at STM, but I think I was in Mobile by the time he was playing. So I missed out on that. That is one of those big what ifs. What if he doesn't get hurt? What if he comes back and leads the Cajuns to a 15-14 victory and gets to settle in a little bit? Everybody, it's amazing how everybody said that Lunch should have been the starter from the get-go because of what he did against Marshall. But he had some other ball games in there that he didn't play particularly well either. And it's always that living in the now, living in the immediacy, as if the coaches didn't see them play all camp. And Lunch wasn't even the second string. That one we might be able to question. But it looks like it's going to work out for Lunch. Hopefully it works out for Walker. Hopefully he's just looking for a chance to play. Doesn't need the money. Probably got paid well for the Cajuns. Now he's just looking for a place to play. I'm not sure why he took so long to go into the portal is the next question. That's the other thing. Why did he wait so long? Because there's a lot of spots. I mean, backup spots are being left, right? When you get an Elon quarterback committing to LSU, he's probably the backup guy. Not that Walker was going to end up there. I'm just saying backup spots are being taken. Let's see where Walker can end up, right? I guess you never know. All right, so one quarterback back into the portal, and another one is out of the portal, heading to ULM. All right, and apparently ULM gets a speedster. We'll talk about that next after I tell you about FanDuel. College football playoff is here and almost over. FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with Indiana if you think they're going to control the matchup. They'd be the favorite. Take a shot on the home underdog. You know what they say about home underdogs in Miami is that if you feel an upset coming. Or build a parlay around the players and the moments you think decide the game. Then you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff Profit boosts every game day. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, we'll get to college basketball at the end. Troy hosting Southern Miss. Big ball game on a Wednesday night in the Sunbelt. ULM gets a transfer. So, again, we had two transfers coming in. Henry Hasselback from UCLA going to App. Max Johnson, another former LSU quarterback, going to Georgia Southern. Trey Guerra going to Coastal Carolina. A little bit of cash involved with that one. And now ULM gets a quarterback out of the portal from the University of Houston. Austin Carlisle transfers to ULM. Headline here on Underdog Dynasty, ULM lands arguably the fastest quarterback in the country. On Monday, January 12th, ULM received a commitment from former Houston quarterback Austin Carlisle. Carlisle recently finished his true freshman season where he maintained his red shirt by participating in 4 games, in addition to the Cougars' Texas Bowl victory over LSU. In limited action, Carlisle was primarily utilized as a running back and wide receiver, taking occasional jet sweeps and handoffs in the Cougars' offense. He finished true freshman campaign logging 6 carries for 44 yards, maxing out with a 13-yard pickup on a jet sweep versus West Virginia. Carlisle played his lone snaps at quarterback during the final drive of Houston's 39-17 victory over Oklahoma State on October 11th. All right, he did not attempt a single pass in the road win. In addition to taking reps at quarterback, running back, and receiver, the 5'10", 190-pound Swiss Army knife also saw action at punt returner in practice. Houston aimed to maximize the quarterback speed, which clocked in, allegedly, at 23.7 miles per hour on the GPS tracking system. Accordingly, the EA Sports College Football 26 game tabbed him as the fastest quarterback in the country with a 92 overall speed. Well, if it's in EA Sports, you know that it's true. So does he, is Aiden Armenta back? Let's see here. Because then you'd have some competition there, if that's the case. Let's see here. He appears to be, says he's a redshirt sophomore. So he still has a couple of years to go. And so, but the thing is for ULM, they need to improve on that offense. And it starts on the line. You need to improve the line, and you need to get some weapons. So remember, they had the best running back in the Sun Belt 2 years ago in Ahmad Hardy. And they did okay for a little bit, but remember, they had won 2 football games at the beginning of the season without getting 200 yards passing combined. Not 200 yards in each ball game. They didn't have 200 yards combined in their first 2 wins of the season. That's tough to do, and not something that's generally repeatable. And so you need some weapons. And again, wide receivers, tight ends, multiple running backs. You need them. I think Braylon McReynolds even went back into the portal as if he's got another year. These guys. And sometimes I go nuts. Chris Bracey from Mobile is going to Michigan. I saw him play running back. He's from St. Paul's. St. Paul's would be your A.J. McCarron type high school. Not type, but that's his high school. And Jay Coker, same high school. And I called Chris Bracey games. And so you kind of not conflate, but sometimes this timeline is crazy. So I'll play a running back and defensive back. And now he's going to Michigan and probably getting a few bucks to do that too. So good for Chris. All right. Congratulations to him. But nonetheless, we'll see what ULM can do with this because their defense is pretty good. All right. What Brian Tavares has built there has been a good defense, but the offense sputters. So what's going to happen? Well, that defense is going to get tired. Right. And they played their best ball game. Aiden Armenta had his best ball game on the last game of the year against the Cajuns. Again, he doesn't throw for 200 yards. He threw for over 300 yards against the Cajuns. I don't think he's had many 200-yard games, and he had a big ball game against the Cajuns. And so they need weapons. They need to be able to block on the offensive line. They need some running backs, and they need some wide receivers. They've been very limited offense weapon-wise. And Brian Vincent was very thrilled with their running back room heading into the season. As much as they were going to miss him out Hardy, and he didn't want to take anything away from him, he thought they had much more depth in the room. We'll see. I thought I saw Braylon McReynolds went into the portal. I'll see if you guys can follow up with that on me. Sometimes I'm just going in one direction, and I didn't look that up before the show. I do apologize. But that's good news for ULM. They do have some depth at quarterback. Again, he didn't show what he can do passing-wise. They already have, oddly enough, they already have Hunter Herring. They already have the running quarterback. The problem is when you bring in the running quarterback, everybody knows he's the running quarterback. It's easy to defend. Now, if you're trying to get one or 2 yards, okay, you may be able to do that, but you really are telegraphing the play. Louisville did it with Matt Sluka. Or no, I'm sorry, not Louisville. JMU did it against Louisville with Matt Sluka. It's just easy to defend. You have to block that perfectly. And almost the defense has to make a mistake for that to happen. So we're just looking for ULM to improve and to be competitive. And that's what I'm looking for from the Sun Belt, is getting some of those lower teams, the Georgia States, the ULMs, to compete at a little bit of a higher level to help the other teams out at the higher end. So the schedule looks a little bit tougher than when you're playing. I understand not everybody can win, but when teams have 1 or 2 wins, it does not help at all. It looks bad. It looks bad. All right, let's talk some basketball. We did a lot of basketball yesterday's episode. Let's dive into these games that are coming up tonight and a little bit on Thursday. We'll do that right after I thank you. Continued thanks as the Locked On Sunbelt channel grows. Really do appreciate it. Had a little bit of an appointment. I had an early morning appointment on Tuesday, so I appreciate you guys checking out that video. Did it from the car instead of the desk. But I do appreciate all your support. We are continuing to grow. And as you guys know, we still have that Everydayer Club that can, you can sign up for that. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live Sunbelt sports every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, members only, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, that's a benefit for you. All right, you get to save a little bit of time, and it only costs a little bit of money. All right, and please sign up and subscribe. It's a big help. We're trying to get to, it look like we're going to get to 2,900 this week, but hopefully we'll continue. And baseball is just starting. We got another 6 weeks to lead up to that. We did a little preseason rankings with the perfect game and Division I baseball. And we did get our first interview with a coach lined up next week. So we're looking forward to that one. Probably on Friday, I'll start lining them up because, again, if you get 14 of them and you want to do one a day, you need that's going to be 3 weeks. So we'll start lining those up. All right. So, again, thank you all so much for all of your support. Please don't forget to subscribe. Locked On Sunbelt over at YouTube. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Basketball on Wednesday night. You do have Coastal Carolina at Marshall. Feels like that's a Marshall ball game. Okay, I think they'll be favored in that one pretty handily. These lines don't come out, although the Troy one has come out. We'll get to that in a second. And Texas State is hosting the Cajuns. The Cajuns have 4 wins, 2 wins in the Sun Belt. They do not play Monroe anymore. their worst year ever, and they happened a couple of times, although not recently, is 7 wins in the history. Is Louisiana going to get to 7 wins this year? But the big ball game on Wednesday is going to be Troy and Southern Miss. Troy is an 8.5-point favorite. Total is 145.5. And this should be a good ball game. Troy is 11-6, 4-1 in the Sun Belt. Southern Miss 11-7, 5-1 in the Sun Belt. Troy can be a little bit more dominating than Southern Miss. They did not have a good showing against Arkansas State, but they have won 6 out of their last 7, including slipping by UAB by a point. They beat Marshall by 7. They hammered Texas State by 20. They beat the Cajuns by 20. And they did handle South Alabama by 10. They did lose Arkansas State in a game that was not this close by 12 points. Southern Miss, as we mentioned in yesterday's episode, I don't want to say win and move on, but they had that very close loss to Ole Miss. And I got a feeling that gave them some confidence. They did get by the Cajuns by 8. They lost to Arkansas State by 7. They did lose handily to LSU, and then beat Monroe in Monroe by 14. Beat the Cajuns in Lafayette by 7. Beat Texas State by 10, and then beat Monroe by 10. And this is, again, what we mentioned in yesterday's episode. We're going to find out a lot about Southern Miss. And they are all over the place. This is one crazy road trip, all right? They're going to Troy. Then they're going to San Marcos to play Texas State. Then they're at Georgia State, and then they're at Coastal. Usually you do Georgia State and then Georgia Southern, but in this case, that is not the case. In fact, I would tell you they don't play Georgia Southern. So if I'm Southern Miss, can I go, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, 2-2, all right? Can I split with Troy and Texas State, and then at least split with Georgia State and Coastal Carolina? If not, take both those ball games. I only say split with Troy and Texas State because Troy's better, and Troy's at home. I think Southern Miss is better than Texas State. That doesn't change the fact that Texas State is hosting the game. So you want to get one of these two if you're Southern Miss. Obviously, if you can get both of them, fantastic. But let's see if we can you also want to avoid going 0-2. So that's why I'm saying splitting is not a bad result. It's not the best case scenario, but not the worst case scenario either. Then you're playing at Georgia State and at Coastal. Southern Miss is better than both those teams. Although Coastal's tougher at home and Georgia State is much improved. They are not the pushover that they were, forget last year, like last month. So this is not going to be necessarily easy for Southern Miss. Let's see what the stats are. We used to do these breakdowns. I don't do them quite as much anymore. Let's see here. Troy, let me see statistically what they give up, because they score a lot of points. They give up they score 86 points a ball game. Doesn't say what they do defensively. No. Okay. So they score 86 points a game. I don't think Southern Miss is that high. Southern Miss is going to be lucky if they're in the 70s. Let's see. They're actually 76 points a game. Actually, one is that right? 86. It's 85.9 and 75.9. So it's actually 10 points differential. So, and the spread is 8.5. So it's right there. Southern Miss is going to have to play some good defense, and they're going to have to put up some points. That's what they're going to have to do. I'd really like to see what they do defensively. I think this is going to be a good ball game. Would not be surprised if Southern Miss covers. I would be surprised and impressed if Southern Miss wins. I'll take Troy to win this ball game. See, Troy has the capability of almost blowing the doors off of anybody in the Sun Belt. That's what you got to be afraid of. If they start hitting their shots and playing defense, really tough spot for Southern Miss. Right? If Southern Miss can keep the scoring down, play it to where it is in the 60s or 70s, they got a shot. South Alabama had a shot in that ball game. Those Campbell brothers hit wild threes to make like a 7-point, a 6-point game and 7-point game, a 10-point ball game. They did get some offensive rebound. That's going to be a big spot. Troy is very good at offensive rebounding, and South Alabama struggles out of that zone. So we'll see how Southern Miss matches up, and this will be a good shot with no football to worry about to watch these teams play, because I don't think I've seen a lot of either one of these two teams play. So we're looking forward to that one. And again, the other ones, as we mentioned, Coastal Carolina is at Marshall. That should be a Marshall victory. See how Marshall comes back after, I think, what was a disappointing loss to Georgia State, right? Yeah, they lost 81-73 to Georgia State. They had won 4 in a row and 6 out of 7 with a lone loss to Troy, and they lost at Georgia State. So, as I mentioned, Southern Miss has to be careful not to, take Georgia State for granted. Now, Marshall has a few ball games here. They get Coastal at home. They get James Madison at home. They get Monroe at home. They should be favoring all those ball games. The tough one's going to be that last one, and that's South Alabama. That's going to be a very good matchup. And Marshall's got a shot to reel 4 games off in a row. I guess they would probably be favored against South Alabama. South Alabama is probably a better basketball team than Marshall, although both of them are 3-2 in the Sun Belt. I think South Alabama can be more explosive offensively and is ridiculous defensively. So we'll see how that goes. And the final ball game on Wednesday tonight, Texas State hosting the Cajuns. Is Texas State getting better? Let me see. They lost to Southern Miss by 10. They had a shot at beating Arkansas State. They lost by 1, 83-82. They did beat Monroe by 5, got hammered by Troy. They did have that surprising win against South Alabama. South Alabama kind of let that one go. They had a huge come-from-behind win against ULM and then let that one slip away. So they've won 2 out of their last 6 ball games. So maybe not. Maybe they're just playing a little bit better, not necessarily winning. But, I mean, if you're Texas State and you're looking at the Cajuns, you're looking at a win. And then you're really going to gauge how good you are when you take on Southern Miss over the weekend. So that's a big spot for Texas State as well. Can they climb those Sun Belt standings? All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget about the audio podcast, Apple and Spotify. That is a big help as well. You know what? I'll ask this. If you guys want me to hit up anything, and we're generally speaking football, basketball, baseball, we'll probably do a little bit softball in there as well. But those are going to be the big 3. And the idea is to get all 14 coaches. So we'll see if that happens. That may or may not include a bonus episodes on the weekends just to get everybody in. So we will see how many people want to do it and how many I can get. And we will be looking forward to talking to them over the next few weeks. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.